A young man with autism who works as a night receptionist at a hotel witnesses a disturbing scene. Today we will see the night employee as he goes around the different cameras installed in the hotel rooms. He sees several different people as they go about their daily lives. "Hello, how are you?" he repeats to the guests staying there, and he even tries to perfect their speech patterns. Suddenly he hears his own mother on this list saying, "Love, she's ready." And she places a plate of food on the steps leading to his room in the basement. He takes a break from watching the images on his camera to get his food and sits on his sofa to enjoy a pleasant moment with his mother through the security camera transmission. Later, he gets ready to go to work, and his mother watches from the window, noting that everything seems calm and peaceful as she drives through the neighborhood and parks in the hotel parking lot where he works. Then, while heading to his workplace, another colleague stops him trying to start an awkward conversation. It becomes clear that Bart, or Bar, has social interaction issues because he is autistic, but this does not prevent him from being in charge of customer service and handling service interactions while he works. He sniffs a picture from a magazine in the hotel lobby while he is in the middle of his night shift. Later, Karen arrives at the hotel to check in under a reservation in a name called Fred, and while she is getting ready to go up, she asks Bart if the room is nice. He lists all the amenities included in the room as if he were reading from a textbook. Air conditioning, safe, telephone, or a flat-screen TV. While he is getting his key card, he notices small details in the jewelry she is wearing. Observing her, he decides to move her to a nicer room, so he gives her another, better key. French doors provide access to the office. Be careful. Then we see that Barta has set up surveillance cameras around that room and is watching it from the reception as she puts on a robe and lies down on the bed to drink wine. Soon, someone rings the doorbell from outside and she opens the door while Bart watches the interaction. Since she comes in and finds him watching the cameras, he assumes that she is watching a video and not the hotel cameras because that would be impossible. "You can leave if you want," he says, "but then just go, leaving me as a replacement at the counter. That shirt is very annoying. Go to hell, thank you." When he gets home, Bart looks at the hotel room footage and sees the images of Karen and the man as if it were his favorite TV show. At first, things seem to be going well, but Bart realizes that things are getting a bit aggressive, and a gun appears from a bag in the room while the recording continues, showing that the man begins to beat her. When this happens, Bart decides to get into his car and drive directly to the hotel. He enters through the pool door, and Jacques comes out to smoke at the same time. Jacques notices that Bart's car is still there, but Bart is already in front of Karen's room door. Suddenly, he hears a shot coming from inside, and when he investigates, he finds Bart sitting on Karen's bed. He believes that someone is dead and that Karen's corpse is lying on the floor, so he goes off to call the police while Bart remains seated on the bed. After a short lapse of time, Bart starts taking out the memory cards from all the hidden cameras he had installed around the room. His intention, obviously, is to manipulate the evidence and remove all his SD cards to cover up the fact that he was spying on people. After this, Detective Espada appears and talks with Ron about why he hired Bart for the front desk job. But he admits that Bart isn't the nicest person and tells the detective that he hasn't been in trouble in the last 3 years, so he has been a good worker. Espada begins walking toward Par Ariel, who immediately gives his perfect alibi with facts to back up his whereabouts. Espada is amazed by his response and tries to open a more comfortable dialogue. He then shares, "I left 15 minutes before my shift ended and drove home taking Reynolds Boulevard and Arena Drive. My alibi is that I was watching TV and realized I had left my wallet at work, so I went back to get it." His answers are rather cryptic, but Detective Espada sees things that don't add up in this alibi. "You're a very smart guy, and still, what you're telling me doesn't make sense," he says, arriving at the station. Then he heads to his office to speak with Carrie's husband, as it appears Detective Espada was a friend of the now widowed husband. The husband cannot believe what is happening. Clarine had a weapon for protection. Later, Espada has to deal with Bart's mother. The woman is furious because they took Bart without her consent and is ready to rain hell on the police department for detaining her son. So his mother takes him home and asks if there is anything he needs. But Bart doesn't say anything. He simply tilts his head as if to weigh her words. and then he goes to his basement room. That night, Espada investigates more about Asperger's, and Bart's mother tries to let him rest as best she can while he watches the hotel footage. While doing so, he notices that the attacker has a specific tattoo on his thigh. The next day at the hotel, Rhonda speaks and suggests moving him to a different hotel so that he can forget the bad events that happened the previous night. Perfect. Well, he agrees with everything and heads to the smaller hotel to begin his new job there. Finally, a car stops in the parking lot and Andrea enters to check in. She immediately realizes that Bart is a nice person and she tries to be friendly. "It's a pleasure to meet you." What Andrea did not know is that Bart had a camera installed in his tie. He takes the footage from his camera and watches the images of Andrea checking in, and he pretends to practice a conversation with her again. Later, the next day, he awkwardly heads toward his car to find a place to sit, but he keeps walking until he reaches a grocery store. Once inside, he runs into Andrea. He tries to apologize for the way he talks, but she tells him that she also had a brother with autism, but her brother couldn't socialize either, just like Bart. The employees adored him, so Bart feels more comfortable and tries to ask what happened to her brother or if he died. She explains to him how he was hospitalized for a long time before passing away. However, Bart feels intimidated once more and leaves the store. When he gets home, he goes over the SD cards he took from the room and discovers that one of the cards is still at the hotel. However, Espada has found this card and uses the footage as a means for Karen's husband to realize what happened. But the camera only shows from the knee down, and they cannot identify anyone. However, it is possible to see Karen cheating on her husband just before her death. After finishing watching the footage, the husband tries to convince him to arrest Bart, as he believes Bart is responsible, but Detective Espada tells him that there isn't really anything yet, and Bart does not seem to be the culprit. So Espada turns to Jack to ask him some questions. He's a good kid, kinda odd, and since he talks about how weird it was to catch you watching the images during your night shift, it was very strange, he says. Meanwhile, Bart welcomes Dre back to the hotel and tells him that the workers did some air conditioning work in his room. However, this isn't true. Bart had installed security cameras to spy on Andrea. Andrea goes to her room to relax after a stressful night and prepares to light a cigarette when she decides to ask Bart for a light. However, Bart tells her that this is not possible because smoking is not allowed on the premises. So she decides to go out and smoke, and he brings her a box of matches. Then she offers to talk with him outside, and he says he'll see her later. He heads to the pool to swim topless, and Bart simply appears next to the pool with a towel so that she can cover up. After startling her, she puts on her robe and composes herself, then invites him to sit down. He apologizes for what happened and proceeds to question her about the man who dropped her off at the hotel and why she kissed him. She does not answer and skirts the issue by asking if he has a girlfriend. He explains how difficult it is for him to have a friend or a girlfriend. Meanwhile, they continue practicing everyday life things, and he laments that he is perceived as weird or unsophisticated. At one moment, Bart pounces and kisses her. She is astonished but assures him that everything is fine and that she wasn't bothered by it. Later, she tells him how loneliness drives people to do crazy things as he rests his head on her lap. During this moment, Bart bluntly tells her that he has no idea how to talk to someone and wonders aloud who could be his lifesaver in the turbulent waters of his life. "It could be your lifesaver," he suggests, but Andrea tells him, "Maybe I should go to sleep." Shortly after she leaves, Bart lies down on the armchair where Andrea had been. The next day, Bart roams around the city trying to improve his image. However, his interactions with people make it difficult for him to say what he really wants. "It's not me," he thinks. "That's not really me." In the blink of an eye, Bart changes his scent, his clothes, his hair, and even his car. But when he goes to call Andrea, he realizes that she is with a man. However, this is not just any man. He is the one from Karen's room. Immediately, Bart notices the man's tattoo, and when he gets home, he discovers that Espada is there to seize his computer and hard drive. When Espada tells him what he thinks, Bart seems to lose it for a moment. However, everyone calms down, and Espada is angry because his computer has no files and the hard drive is empty. "But you know, we have a dead woman, and I think Bart knows something about it." That's why I understood his sarcasm. When everyone leaves, Bart takes out the other cameras and the external hard drive in which he had made a backup of everything he had recorded, and he watches as Andrea has her visitor in the room with her. As he watches the video, he notices that the man looks a lot like Karen's husband. Andrea seems upset in the video because the man is married, and the man's tattoo is a clear indication that he is the same guy who was with Karen. Later, Bart's mother comes down to his room to talk with him. After Ron calls to ask why he hasn't gone to work or answered his calls, she gives him a motivational speech to help him gather the courage and energy to move forward. "I'm leaving now," she says, and then she goes to eat with her at the table. Later that night, we see Karen's husband sitting in a car, telling Andrea that it's the only way. The more he speaks, the clearer it becomes that he is trying to make sure that she does what he tells her. We deserve it. The next day, Andrea goes to Bart's house and finds his mother in the front yard. After asking her about Bart and why she doesn't work at the hotel, his mother decides to go get her son. When she goes to Harda, she sees Andrea simply engaged in a simple conversation until she finally admits that she is heartbroken. She finally realizes that she has something to do with it. After listening, she apologizes for everything and tells him that he is a good person. She also mentions that if things were different, there could have been something more between them, but then she tells him that she is very happy to have met him and that she won't bother him anymore because you are a good person, you are very special. And after that, she does exactly what she had really been trying to get him to do. After that, we see Andrea leaving with him. Later, Bart goes back in to watch the footage of Andrea's room and sees that she appears to ask him why he didn't do what he asked her. It seems that things become quite tense, and then Bart goes to Arder, sees Andrea, and hits her. He runs to the hotel to save her. Nick ends up running out of the hotel in an excited manner, and Bart shows Andrea that there are cameras all over the room. Soon he convinces her to return to his basement, where he shows her all the footage of Karen's death. He tells Andrea that they should go to the police station with this evidence, and that she should also stop believing that man. But she simply does not dare to decide what to do. "Could we go to the police together if you were my girlfriend?" she asks instead. Then she decides that it is a good time to lie down and sleep on Bart's bed and simply hug him. Here we begin to suspect Andrea's true intentions. The next morning, Bart wakes up and finds Andrea waiting for him at his coffee table with a packed suitcase. When he approaches her, they kiss. But slowly that dream fades, and Bart wakes up to the reality that Andrea has returned to the hotel. Espada enters Andrea's room and searches for her belongings until he finds the hidden camera. Meanwhile, Andrea hands over Bart's computer hard drive to Nick, and Bart finds Karen's weapon on his bed. He takes the weapon and goes back to his computer, where he sees the monitors turned on, and discovers that one of them is actually placed in his living room, where he sees his mother getting up to check on him. Suddenly, he hears a shot coming from the basement. The police appear at the same time, and they can see what really happened the night Karen died. They even leave the memory cards that he had stored so that Espada finds them on the desk and sees that Bart really isn't the guy he is looking for. Somehow, he shot the computer monitor and decided to leave through the entrance while heading to the mall to try to socialize with people. At the same time, Nick and Andrea are chased by the police. Andrea realizes that Bart did the right thing, and perhaps she did not.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.